Welcome, dear listener. I'm truly grateful you've chosen to settle in with me tonight, to let the noise of your day fade into the background, and to allow your mind to drift to a place far from here. Before we begin this journey, I'd love to know where you are in this moment and what time it is for you, whether you're curled in bed with the lamp casting long shadows, or watching the last light of dusk from your window. If these quiet historical wanderings bring you a sense of peace, you are always welcome to subscribe, to join our community of gentle explorers. There are no demands here, only an invitation. For now, let's ease into the story together. Dim your lights perhaps, and let the room grow soft around you. You find yourself standing on a weathered wooden deck, the planks groaning a low, constant complaint under your bare feet. The air is a thick, wet blanket, heavy with the smell of salt, of tar, of sun-bleached rope, and something else, something faintly rotten and metallic beneath it all. A warm, tropical sun beats down on your shoulders, but the breeze that fills the vast, dirty white sails above you is cool, carrying you forward over waves of impossible sapphire blue. In this single, suspended moment, it feels like freedom. It feels like a painting of adventure. The ship cuts through the water with a sound like a perpetual, gentle sigh, and the horizon is a clean, unbroken line. You take a deep breath of the ocean air, and for a heartbeat, you believe the stories. You believe the romance. What you do not yet realize, what your mind cannot yet comprehend, is that this ship is not a vessel of liberty, but a floating slum, a wooden cage adrift on a vast, merciless desert of water. The beauty is a liar. The freedom is a trap. And the adventure is a slow, grinding, and often brutally short descent into a kind of hell you could never have imagined. This feeling of peace is the most dangerous illusion of all. Let's stay here for a moment, in this deceptive calm. Look around you, not with the eyes of a tourist, but with the slow, assessing gaze of someone who lives here. This is your entire world now. The ship, let's call her the Sea Serpent, is not large, perhaps 100 feet from stern to bow, a converted merchant sloop or a captured brigantine. Her lines are not sleek, but workmanlike, and every inch of her is put to use, and then overused. The deck is not clean. It's a chaotic landscape of coiled ropes, thicker than your arm, of scattered cannonballs waiting for their iron chariots, of wooden barrels lashed down, their contents, water, rum, salted meat, the difference between life and death. Reach out and touch the railing. Your fingers come away sticky with a film of salt and pine tar. The mast, a giant of splintered, creaking wood, seems to hold up the very sky, and crawling in its rigging, high above the deck, are dark silhouettes of men moving with a precarious, monkey-like agility that makes your stomach lurch. One misstep, one sudden lurch of the ship, and they would fall, a brief, silent cry swallowed by the churn of the wake. This is not a stunt in a film. It is a daily, mundane terror. And the sounds. Listen past the water and the wind. Hear the constant, low groan of the hull, the rhythmic squeal of the tiller as the helmsman makes his minute adjustments, the cluck of chickens in a makeshift coop near the forecastle, the distant, wet cough of a man somewhere below decks. This symphony of wood and water and human struggle is the only music you will hear for months, perhaps years. It is the sound of a machine, a living, breathing machine, and you are now a single, replaceable cog within it. You lean against the rail, the wood warm from the sun, and try to imprint this feeling of momentary stillness into your memory. but the ship is already turning you into someone else. Someone who listens, not for beauty, but for the sounds of things breaking. They move around you now, the other inhabitants of this wooden world. They are not the grinning rogues of storybooks. Their faces are a gallery of sun-leathered skin, of beards matted with salt and old food, of eyes squinted perpetually against the glare. Scars are more common than smiles. Missing fingers, a hook where a hand should be, a limp from a poorly set bone. These are not eccentricities. They are resumes, written in flesh and bone. They speak in a rough, shorthand language, a patois of sailors' terms, curses, and slang from a dozen different ports. This, you will learn, is the closest thing you will ever have to a family. A fractured, quarrelsome, often treacherous family, but a family nonetheless. Your survival depends on them, and theirs on you. There is a democracy here, of a sort. The crew has voted on the articles, the contract that governs their conduct, and most importantly, the division of plunder. You have a share, a single share, same as every other deckhand. The quartermaster, an imposing man with a calm, cold gaze, is your representative, your voice against the captain's absolute authority in chase and combat. There is a strange comfort in this brotherhood. A man named Red Sam, his beard of fiery tangle, claps you on the shoulder and offers you a sip of rum from his personal flask. His hands are a map of rope burns and old wounds. He laughs, a sound like gravel shaken in a tin cup, and tells a story about a tavern in Port Royal that seems too wild to be true. For a moment, you feel a flicker of belonging. This is the other side of the coin, the camaraderie that binds men together in an impossible life. But this bond is fragile, woven from desperation as much as loyalty. It can snap in an instant over a bad look, a disputed share of loot, or the last piece of hardtack. The man who shares his rum with you today might be the same man you are ordered to maroon on a barren island tomorrow. The family can turn on its own in a heartbeat, and the rules that protect you are only as strong as the fear of the man who enforces them. You pocket the flask, the metal warm from his hand, and wonder what secret fears lie behind Red Sam's laughing eyes. A figure emerges from the captain's cabin beneath the high, raised deck at the stern. The conversation on deck dies to a murmur. This is not the captain of a navy ship, all polished buttons and rigid discipline. This man, Captain Thorne, is something else entirely. He does not walk, he stalks. He is tall, but it is his presence that makes him seem to tower over everyone. His coat is of fine blue velvet, but it is frayed at the cuffs and stained with salt. His beard is neatly trimmed, a dark contrast to the wildness of his crew, but the skin around his eyes is a web of fine lines, etched not from laughter, but from a lifetime of squinting at horizons and into the souls of men he cannot trust. He says nothing. His eyes, the color of a winter sea, sweep across the deck, missing nothing. They pause for a fraction of a second on a coil of rope that has not been properly stowed, then move on. The message is sent and received without a single word. His authority does not come from a piece of paper issued by a distant king or a wealthy merchant. It comes from something far more primal, a terrifying, unpredictable will, a cunning mind for navigation and tactics, and a reputation that precedes him like a cold draught. It is said he once keel-hauled a man for insubordination, dragged him under the ship from one side to the other, a journey through a forest of razor-sharp barnacles that left little more than a bloody skeleton. He is not just your leader, he is your fate, His decisions will determine if you eat or starve, if you live rich or die poor, if you see another sunrise or feed the crabs at the bottom of the sea. A good prize, a fat merchant ship captured and stripped of its wealth, and he is a hero, a genius. A long stretch of empty ocean, a failed chase, a run-in with a naval frigate, and the mood will turn. The democracy of the crew can become a mob in minutes, and the captain knows this better than anyone. He's riding a tiger, and you are clinging to its back. He turns and disappears back into his cabin, the door closing with a soft, final click. The deck remains silent for a long moment after he is gone. The shadow he casts is longer than the ship itself. The dinner bell rings, a harsh, clanging sound that shakes you from your thoughts. The line for the cook, a one-eyed man named Stitches, forms quickly. The air around his giant soot-blackened pot takes on a new, pungent aroma that mixes unpleasantly with the sea air. Tonight, it's lobscouse, a stew, a word that promises far more than it delivers. It is a thick, murky broth with chunks of salted pork, so hard you must suck on them for minutes before attempting to chew, and ship's biscuit mashed into the mix to give it bulk. You take your wooden bowl and spoon, the wood scarred and stained from 10,000 previous meals. The ship's biscuit itself, when served alone, is an experience. It is rock hard, and you must tap it sharply on the table to dislodge the weevils and maggots that have made it their home. Some men simply close their eyes and eat it quickly. Extra protein. Others, like the old sailor they call Grandad, methodically picks each tiny white grub out, flicking them overboard with a look of mild distaste, as if this is the most normal ritual in the world. The water in your tin cup is warm and tastes strongly of the wood from the cask it's stored in. It is your ration, carefully measured. You're already learning the dull, constant ache of mild thirst. The rum ration, when it comes, is a different beast. It is not a pleasant drink. It is a tool. It is harsh, burning its way down your throat to settle in your stomach like a small, warm fire. It numbs the aches, dulls the fear, and makes the endless, monotonous horizon seem a little less like a prison wall. It is medicine for the soul, and its abuse is as common as its distribution. This is your sustenance. This is what fuels your body for the back-breaking labor of sailing this ship. There are no fresh fruits, no green vegetables. You have not seen a lemon in months. A subtle soreness is starting to bloom in your gums, and you notice a few of the older men have a strange, lethargic gait, their skin pale and waxy. You dismiss it as sea weariness. But Grandad catches your look. He spits a stream of brown tobacco juice over the side. "The scourge is coming for us all, boy," he mutters. "Just a matter of time." You don't know what he means, but the way he says it makes the lukewarm stew turn to a cold stone in your belly. Grandad was right. The scourge has a name, scurvy. It does not strike like a cannonball, swift and dramatic. It creeps. It begins with a lethargy that seeps into your bones, a heaviness that makes hauling on a wet rope feel like lifting a mountain. Then the aches begin, deep in your joints. Your gums, once healthy and pink, become spongy and swollen. They bleed at the slightest touch, turning your mouth into a coppery, painful mess. Your teeth, with no healthy tissue to hold them in place, begin to loosen. You can wiggle them with your tongue, a horrifying tiny movement. Old wounds, scars you thought long healed, split open and begin to bleed again, as if your body is forgetting how to hold itself together. Your skin becomes covered in dark, bruise-like blotches. The strong, able-bodied sailor you were just weeks ago is gone, replaced by a weak, gasping creature who can barely climb the ladder to the deck. The ship's surgeon, if you are lucky enough to have one, is likely a former barber or a carpenter, a man whose medical knowledge is a grim comedy of superstition and butchery. He will tell you your humors are out of balance. He might bleed you, further weakening you, or mix a dreadful concoction of mercury and gunpowder. You lie in your hammock below decks, swaying in the near darkness. The air is thick with the groans of other afflicted men, with the smell of unwashed bodies, vomit, and the sweet, sickly odor of rotting flesh. This is not a heroic death. It is a slow, undignified, and agonizing unraveling. It is the true king of the pirate world, claiming more lives than cannon fire or sword fights ever could. And it is born from a simple, tragic lack of a single vitamin, a piece of knowledge that lies a century in the future. You drift in and out of a feverish sleep, your dreams filled with the impossible, vibrant green of a lime, the crisp, explosive juice of an orange. The memory of fresh food is now a form of torture. The sea outside may be full of water, but it is your body that is dying of thirst, a thirst for the simplest gift of the land. A hand, rough and calloused, shakes you awake. It's the surgeon's mate, a boy no older than you, his face pale. The surgeon wants to see you, he whispers. It's your leg. You look down. The small cut you got from a splintered rail days ago has ballooned into a swollen, fiery red, throbbing with a pain that seems to have its own heartbeat. Yellow pus seeps from the wound. The smell is faint but unmistakable. Gangrene. You are half carried to the surgeon's domain, a space cleared near the galley, a stained canvas sheet laid over a few barrels. The tools are laid out with a terrible neatness. Saws with teeth designed for wood and bone, probes that look like metal hooks, a branding iron heating in a small brazier, its end glowing a faint angry red. The surgeon himself wipes his hands on a bloody apron. He looks tired. The poison's spreading, he says, his voice devoid of emotion. We have to take the leg or it'll take you. There are no anesthetics, no ether, no chloroform. You are given a leather strap to bite down on and a bottle of rum, not to drink, but to pour over the wound in a futile attempt at cleansing. The strongest men are called to hold you down. The surgery is not a precise incision. It is a frantic, brutal act of amputation. The sound of the saw grating against your own bone is a vibration that fills your entire skull, a horror that goes beyond pain. You scream into the leather, the world dissolving into a white-hot agony. The last thing you see before you faint is the surgeon reaching for the hot iron to cauterize the bleeding stump. The smell of your own burning flesh is the smell of survival. When you wake, you will be less than you were, but you will be alive. For now. The cry comes from the crow's nest, a high, terrified shriek that cuts through the usual shipboard noises. Squall, dead ahead. The horizon, once a clean line, is now a boiling, black wall rushing towards you at an impossible speed. The gentle breeze vanishes, replaced by a dead, oppressive calm. Then, the wind hits. It is not a gust, it is a physical blow. The world dissolves into a chaos of screaming wind, horizontal rain that feels like needles on your skin, and waves that are no longer water, but moving mountains. The sea serpent is a toy in the hands of a furious giant. She is thrown up onto peaks where you can see a terrifying, churning valley below, then plunged down into troughs so deep the walls of water block out the sky, green and towering. The deck is constantly awash, cold, foaming water tearing at your legs, trying to pull you overboard. Every man is a part of the ship now, scrambling, hauling, tying, cutting. The sound is deafening, the roar of the wind, the explosive crash of waves on the deck, the desperate shouts of men, the terrifying groan and crack of the masts and rigging, pushed far beyond their limits. You are tied to a rope, a lifeline, as you and others struggle to furl the mainsail, a flapping, sodden monster of canvas that threatens to tear itself to shreds or shake the entire mast loose. The wind tears the breath from your lungs. The cold is bone deep. Lightning flashes, illuminating the scene in a snapshot of stark, hellish clarity. Men's faces contorted in effort and terror. The deck at a crazy angle, the captain himself at the helm, muscles straining as he fights the wheel. In that instant, you see a man, untethered, swept from the deck by a wall of water. His mouth is open in a silent scream, and then he is gone, vanished into the black chaos. The storm does not care. It is a force of nature utterly indifferent to your articles, your shares of treasure, your dreams of freedom. It is the great equalizer, and it is showing you in the most direct way possible how small and fragile you truly are. Weeks later, the lookout's cry is different. Sail, ho, sail to the southeast. The ship erupts into a controlled frenzy. This is the moment. This is the reason for all the suffering. Captain Thorne is on deck in an instant, his spyglass to his eye. A slow, cruel smile spreads across his face. A Spanish galleon, he announces, heavy in the water, a fat prize. The sea serpent turns into the wind, every scrap of canvas set, becoming a predator. The chase is long, tense, a game of chess on the open ocean. For hours, you gain on the larger, slower ship. You can see her flags now, the bright colors of the Spanish crown. You can see the tiny figures scrambling on her decks. The Jolly Roger is run up the halyard, a skeletal hand clutching a hourglass, a promise of the fate that awaits them if they resist. The message is clear. Surrender or die. They do not surrender. As you draw alongside, the world explodes. Your ship's cannon roar, a simultaneous blast that kicks the entire vessel sideways and fills the air with thick, acrid smoke. The sound is not just heard, it is felt in your teeth, in your bones. The cannonballs tear into the Spanish ship's hull, splintering wood, shredding men. They return fire. A ball screams past your head and tears a chunk out of the railing, sending deadly wooden shrapnel flying. A man next to you falls, clutching at a piece of wood embedded in his throat. A gurgling, wet sound, his last. Then the ships crunch together. Grappling hooks are thrown, binding the two vessels in a deadly embrace. Board, the cries are raw. You draw your cutlass, a heavy, brutal blade, and you surge forward with the rest of the crew, a wave of screaming, desperate men pouring onto the enemy deck. What follows is not a duel. It is a slaughterhouse. It is close, personal, and messy. The air is filled with the clash of steel, the blast of pistols, the screams of the wounded and dying. The deck is slick with blood. You fight for your life, your cutlass hacking and blocking, your body moving on pure, terrified instinct. You see Red Sam, his face a mask of blood, locked in combat with a Spanish officer. You see Captain Thorne, a pistol in one hand, a sword in the other, moving through the chaos like a demon, his eyes alight with a terrifying joy. This is the reality of the prize, this blood, this terror. This is the cost of the gold in the hold. The fighting is over. The Spanish ship is yours. The surviving crew are herded onto the deck, their faces pale with shock and fear. Some are spared given the choice to join the Brotherhood. The officers are not so lucky. Their fate is a quick, brutal lesson. The plunder begins. You help break open the hatches and descend into the dark, cool hold of the galleon. And there it is, the reason for it all. Chests, overflowing with silver pieces of 8, with golden doubloons that gleam in the lantern light, bars of silver, intricately worked church plate, bolts of fine silk, casks of wine and brandy. It is a king's ransom. You plunge your hands into a chest of coins, the metal cool and heavy. For a moment the horror of the battle is forgotten, washed away in a wave of pure, avaricious glee. This is it, the dream made real. You are rich. The treasure is hauled back to the sea serpent. The division is a solemn, careful ritual overseen by the quartermaster. Your share is placed in a small, heavy bag. It is more money than you have ever held in your life, more than you could have earned in a decade of honest labor. You tie the bag to your belt, feeling its satisfying weight bump against your hip with every step. It is a token of your success, your reward for surviving hell. But that night, as you try to sleep, the weight feels different. It feels like the weight of the men who died today. The Spanish sailor whose life you ended, the look of surprise in his eyes as your blade found its mark. Your shipmate, the one with the wood in his throat. The gold is cold comfort. It cannot warm you against the chill that has settled in your soul. The treasure is real, but so is the blood that purchased it. And you are starting to understand that some stains never wash out. The gold is a poison. In the days that follow the capture of the galleon, the mood on the sea serpent sours. The shared purpose is gone, replaced by suspicion and greed. Men who were brothers in the storm now eye each other with open avarice. Arguments break out over the most trivial things. A man is caught trying to hide a small jeweled cross in his sea bag. The punishment, decided by a quick, angry vote, is 40 lashes. The crew gathers to watch as the cat o' nine tails, a whip with 9 knotted tails, tears the skin from his back. His screams are a grim counterpoint to the sound of the waves. Captain Thorne grows more paranoid, more volatile. He sees challenges to his authority in every whispered conversation. He drinks more heavily, his rages becoming more unpredictable. The democracy of the pirates is showing its fatal flaw. It is a system built for acquisition, not for governance. Without a common enemy, without the thrill of the chase, it begins to eat itself alive. Red Sam finds you one evening. There's talk, he murmurs, his voice low. Some of the men, they think Thorne is losing his edge, that he's hoarding the best of the plunder for himself. They say it's time for a change. He looks at you, his eyes searching. Where do you stand? You look down at the deck, at the dark stain that still remains from the flogging. The gold in your bag feels heavier than ever. The brotherhood is fracturing, and you are being asked to choose a side. The safety of the ship is an illusion. The greatest danger was never the navy or the storm, but the men sleeping in the hammocks next to you. The tension finally snaps. It begins not with a shout, but with a silence. You wake to find the deck unnaturally still. A group of men led by the boatswain, a hulking brute named Bones, are standing amidships, armed and grim-faced. Captain Thorne emerges from his cabin, his face a mask of cold fury. What is the meaning of this, he demands. We're taking a vote, Captain, Bones says, his voice a low rumble. We don't like the course you're charting. We think it's time for new leadership. Mutiny. The word hangs in the air, more dangerous than any cannonball. The crew splits into factions right there on the deck. Some stand with Bones, some, like Red Sam, stand with Thorne. Others, like you, are caught in the middle, terrified and unsure. It is Thorne who moves first. He draws a pistol and shoots one of the mutineers point blank. The explosion is the starter's pistol for a bloody, close-quarters brawl. It is not a battle against a foreign enemy. It is a civil war, friend against friend. The fight is brutal and short. Thorn, for all his ferocity, is outnumbered. You see him fall, cut down from behind by Bones' axe. His fine blue velvet coat is soaked in crimson. The light in his winter sea eyes goes out. The silence that follows is broken only by the heavy breathing of the victors. Bones is the new master of the sea serpent. The articles are rewritten on the spot, giving him a larger share, more power. The body of Captain Thorn is picked up and, without ceremony, tossed over the side. There are no words, no eulogy. The sea accepts him without a ripple. The ship that was your home has become a dictatorship, and you are now a subject of a man you know to be a murderer and a brute. The wind picks up, cooling the sweat on your brow, but it cannot cool the chill of dread in your heart. Under Bones' reckless command, the sea serpent becomes a ghost, haunting the shipping lanes with a new desperate aggression. But the world is pushing back. In a tavern in Nassau, you hear the whispers. The British Royal Navy has dispatched a squadron, led by the frigate HMS Dauntless, with orders to cleanse the Caribbean of the pirate scourge. Their captain is said to be a methodical, utterly ruthless man who has never lost a prize. The noose is tightening. Days later, the lookout's cry is one you have learned to dread. Warship, a frigate, flying the king's colors. The Dauntless is a vision of terrifying order and power, her lines clean, her sails pristine, her rows of cannon ports a promise of obliteration. Bones, in his arrogance, thinks he can outrun her. He cannot. The frigate is faster, more nimble, her crew drilled to a machine-like efficiency. The chase is hopeless. The Dauntless closes the distance with an inexorable grace. The first warning shot, a single cannonball fired across your bow, sends a geyser of water into the air. The message is clear. Heave to and surrender. Bones gives the order to fight. It is a suicide mission. The frigate's broadside is a rolling thunder of fire and iron that shreds your rigging, smashes your deck, and turns your cannons into so much scrap metal. The sea serpent is crippled in a single, devastating pass. Men are screaming, the ship is listing, the fight is over before it began. You drop your cutlass, it clatters on the broken deck, a sound of finality. The adventure is over, the real horror is about to begin. You are in chains, the air you breathe is stale, thick with the stench of fear, sweat, and the foul bilge water sloshing in the bottom of the Dauntless' hold. The darkness is absolute, a physical weight on your eyes. You are packed in with the surviving members of your crew, manacled to each other and to the damp, slimy deck. The iron cuffs chafe your wrists raw. Every lurch of the frigate sends you sliding into the men next to you. You can hear the regular marching tread of the marine sentries on the deck above, a constant reminder of your captivity. Red Sam is chained next to you. He has a fever, his skin burning hot, and he mutters incoherently about a tavern and a woman with green eyes. The bravado is gone, stripped away, leaving only a sick, terrified boy. Some of the men weep quietly in the dark. Others curse, their voices hoarse with despair. Most are silent, lost in their own private hells. You think of the gold, all of it, now locked in the frigate's strong room, evidence for the Admiralty Court. You think of the feel of the sun on your face, the wind in your hair, things you took for granted and will never experience again. The chains are cold, and they are the most real thing you have ever felt. This is not a temporary setback. This is the end of the line. The ship is carrying you not to a port, but to a dock, and from that dock, you will walk a short path to a scaffold. The journey is almost over. The journey ends in Port Royal, Jamaica. You are hauled from the hold, blinking and stumbling in the blinding tropical sun. The world is too bright, too loud, too full of life that you are no longer a part of. You are marched through the streets in a line of chained men, a spectacle for the townspeople. They line the streets, their faces a mixture of curiosity, hatred, and morbid fascination. They jeer and throw rotten fruit. A tomato explodes against your cheek, its acidic juice stinging your eye. The trial is a formality, a piece of theatre with a predetermined ending. You stand before a bewigged judge who looks at you as if you are a cockroach that has crawled onto his clean floor. The evidence is presented. The testimony of the dauntless captain, the recovered treasure, the articles found on the sea serpent. You are a pirate. The verdict is never in doubt. The judge places a black cloth square on top of his white wig. He pronounces the sentence, his voice dry and dispassionate. You shall be taken from this place to the place from whence you came, and from there to a place of execution, where you shall be hanged by the neck until you are dead. And may God have mercy on your souls. The gavel falls. The sound is as final as the slam of a coffin lid. Your last night is spent in a stone cell, listening to the rats scratch in the corners. A priest comes to offer you salvation, but the words are empty sounds. You are beyond salvation. In the morning, you are given the last meal you cannot eat, and a last drink of rum that you drain in a single, burning gulp. Your hands are tied behind your back. You are led out into the courtyard. The gallows is there, a stark, wooden structure against the bright blue sky. A noose dangles from the crossbeam. The crowd is larger now, buzzing with excitement. This is their entertainment. You are pushed up the ladder onto the platform. The hangman, his face hooded, places the rough hemp noose around your neck, tightening the knot under your left ear. You scan the crowd one last time. You see faces, a blur of strangers. You see the sea, a sliver of brilliant blue between the buildings. The freedom you sought is right there, just beyond your reach, as it always was. The captain of the Dauntless stands with his arms crossed, a look of grim satisfaction on his face. Justice is served. There is no dramatic last word, no brave farewell. There is only the trapdoor, swinging away beneath your feet. There is the sudden, violent jerk, the crushing pressure on your throat, the desperate, involuntary struggle as your body fights for a breath that will never come. The world darkens at the edges, the sounds of the crowd fading into a distant roar, then into a silence more profound than any you experienced at sea. This is the horrible life of a pirate. This is its inevitable, inglorious end. The dance is a short, brutal, and lonely one. But what of the ones who escaped the noose? What of the men who slipped through the net, their gold hidden, their identities lost to the sea? Their story does not end with a cheer. It ends with a whisper. Imagine an old man, his back bent, his hands gnarled with arthritis, sitting in a dim waterfront tavern in some forgotten corner of the world. The fire in the hearth casts dancing shadows on his face, a face that is a roadmap of old scars and older regrets. He sips his cheap ale, the rum of his youth a luxury he can no longer afford. The bag of gold that felt so heavy on the sea serpent was spent long ago on drink, on bad company, on the slow grinding costs of a life lived in the shadows. He is not a hero. He is a cautionary tale. He jumps at the sound of a slamming door. The sight of a naval uniform in the street sends him scurrying down a back alley. His friends are all dead. His name is forgotten, and the sea, the great, beautiful, terrible sea, is a memory that haunts his dreams. He is the ghost of the adventure, the man who survived the horrible life only to find that the life after was a different kind of prison. He has outlived his time, a relic in a world that is moving on, sanitizing his bloody era into storybook legend. He finishes his ale and stands, his joints popping. He walks out into the night, a solitary figure disappearing into the fog that rolls in from the harbor, another secret swallowed by the sea. So, dear listener, we return to you. The wind has died down, the screams have faded, the gallows are empty. You are back in the quiet of your room, the only sound, the gentle hum of your own world. The memory of the salt spray, the taste of weevilly bread, the weight of the gold, and the chill of the chains. They begin to recede, like a dream upon waking. The pirate's life was not one of freedom, but of the most profound confinement. Confinement to a ship, to a brutal code, to a short and violent destiny. It was a life of constant thirst, of gnawing hunger, of festering wounds and rotting gums. It was a life where your best friend could become your executioner, and where your greatest prize was often the thing that sealed your doom. The romance was a lie, a story told by those who never had to swab a deck slick with blood, or listen to a friend die of a fever in the dark. You pick up a shell, if you have one, or simply imagine one, cool and smooth in your hand. If you hold it to your ear, they say you can hear the sea. But listen closer. Beneath the gentle whoosh of the waves, can you hear it? The faint, ghostly echo of a groaning deck, the crack of a sail, a shouted curse, a desperate prayer, a scream swallowed by the wind. The sea remembers all of it. It holds the stories of the free and the damned, the adventurers and the victims, all woven together in its endless, sighing depths. Thank you, friend, for wandering through these shadows with me tonight. If these quiet journeys into the past offer you a strange sort of comfort, a perspective from a harder time, you are always welcome to join our community of listeners. There are no articles to sign here, only a shared appreciation for the stories that lie just beneath the surface of our own calm waters. So, as you drift towards sleep, let the images of that harsh wooden world fade. Let the weight of the gold and the chill of the iron dissolve. You are safe. You are warm. The horizon is yours to define. Rest well. The sea is calm tonight.